Hello and welcome to Pods Like Us. I'm Martin Quibell, known to my friends as Marv, and this time I am joined by the filmmaker, Matthew Zeitoun. Hello, Matthew. How are you?
What's going on, world? How you doing, England?
You know that's going to have to be the introduction to your podcast now.
That's going to be my ad-lib for forever.
Yes, Zeitoun in the afternoon.
I actually have a trademark already. My lawyers are on it. Yeah.
Well, it's always the afternoon somewhere.
It's always the afternoon somewhere, as you can see. You got to get like actually my one buddy Squirrel, who he has a podcast as well. He just has Heineken all over the background. There's just like sponsors the show. I think he just loves Heineken, and I guess he's shooting for it. But guy still loves Heineken, you know what I mean? But you gotta wear the brands you love. Shout out to Patagonia. I actually really like Yvonne Chouinard. He's a good CEO, good guy. But yeah, man, I don't know.
So, what's your first memory of watching a film?
My first memory of watching a film were the VHSs, man.
Yeah.
The VHSs in the 90s were nuts. But I remember being like a little kid, and you would get like a VHS sometimes off of like either like Happy Meals or something, and get those orange cassette tapes like back in the day. And I remember hanging out with like my older and like little cousins, and we would just watch cartoons over and over and over. And then I would hang out by their house, and they had like a bunch of VHSs, and we would just they didn't have cable television, so we would just keep watching movies over and over. And it was one film that I still watch to this day a lot. My family's Lebanese, so there's one film called West Beirut I learned later in life it was Quentin Tarantino's first AC made the film. He's like the Bride of Lebanon, Ziad Doueri. Yeah, he the focus puller for fucking like Reservoir Dogs, Pulp Fiction, and like Jackie Brown. He made his own film called West Beirut, and it was about basically like how things in Lebanon changed, like when the civil war like broke out over there. So it was just very and it was a foreign language film, so you would have to like read the subtitles and like but it was very powerful imagery. Well, actually it wasn't even very powerful imagery. It was actually, now I understand the imagery, but like back then it was just like we would watch it over and over and over again, because I think my dad just didn't return the VHS to Blockbuster. I think he just like stole the fucking VHS. And we would watch it over and over again, and that's like my initial spark into it, but it didn't really make me a filmmaker.
Yeah.
I actually didn't even realize that films were subject to photography until like very later in my life. Photography actually was my first like foray into it.
So what led you? I mean, first of all, just as a tangent, I used to think those video cassettes were so cool, that were differently coloured, like you said, the orange or the yellow and the bright blue tape cassettes, and you just think, oh, that's so cool. Whereas you look back on it now and you think, well, of course, it'd be easy for them to do. They just change the colour of the plastic. But back then, when we were younger, we used to think that was awesome.
We lost the packaging with all this digital shit now. Like there's no it's just like literally like avatars now. Everybody just has a bunch of avatars. That's the extent of the packaging for everything. It's kind of why I like the Midnight Miracle, because the guy Dave Chappelle's trying to release vinyls of the what's it called? Hold on, let me see this if I should move. If they're getting too loud. Hold on.
Woo. The people listening is walking around. He's got a really cool studio.
Oh yeah. As you can, sorry about that, guys. It's a little ridiculous. Just I have a lot of people that live over here, so it's a little bit darker right now. But this is my room. It's kind of a mess right now, so I can't really give you the tour. But Yeah, man. I mean, I feel like we lost the packaging when it came to when it comes to all these digital products. Like, it's mostly anything nowadays. That's the one thing I've realized as a filmmaker is it's more the people are digesting so much content.
Yep.
Like more content than we ever had before. Like if you really think about like watching a VHS was the process of going to Blockbuster, making your selection, bringing it back, finding out that it's shitty, bringing it back to Blockbuster. You know what I mean? It was this whole process. So the standards I feel were a lot higher. Like things weren't like I mean, there's a lot of shitty movies that got made, but like just the selection and the curation of like what cream is rising to the top was like a lot crazier. Now right now I feel like the entire thing is reach. So and like but like back in the day, like there was like good packaging. Like when you would buy an album, like it was an album. It wasn't like oh, I skipped through all these tracks. It was like, you know, front to back, like Let It Bleed by like the Rolling Stones. It's like that's like an album. Like, you know what I mean? White Album's like an album. Like now shit just ends up being content. It's not I mean, it's good because people are just making their money, and it's a lot, but it's like it's a double-edged sword because everybody has this this unlimited free range of release, of distribution and release, and it's all literally like, you know, the amount of energy you're putting to these platforms. Like, you know, like you have to have a good Facebook thing, you have to have a good YouTube thing in order for anything to get made. And they look at that too. Your stats become a lot of the if like a major company's investing in you, man, if you're like going for like Legendary Pictures or like, you know, like Universal or whatever, they're going to look at your stats and they just kind of judge you off of those, which is not necessarily, you know, it's not necessarily helping the art because, like, you know, some artists just can't market themselves. But then again, that's part of the whole game, isn't it? But yeah, man, I don't know. It's strange, man. It's a strange game now. But you still just got to make your art, man.
Yep.
That's the biggest thing. Is if you feel like the piece. That's why I really liked West Beirut, man. Because I mean, granted, it's resonating with the audience of like, you know, like I was like a young Lebanese kid, and you know, like I guess I was the market because I was trying to learn a little bit more about my culture, and it was a beautiful film, but it you know, like nobody, like if I mention the name Ziad Doueri to like the person who's like outside of the actual cinephile like community, it's not going to really ring bells. But if you mention like, I don't know, Spike Lee or Martin Scorsese, like there's a couple people that rose to the top, and like granted they rose to the top because of their artistry, but you know, like nobody will market a film better than like Kevin Feige out of like Marvel. You know what I mean? Like now the films are so commercial that it becomes like those Marvel movies. Like I agree with Scorsese a little bit because they are like content, like they are more like they're like amusement park rides, you know, like you're going to the cinema to have a good time. Like back in the day, you would watch, you know, like, I mean, but then again, there's always been like amusement park rides, man. This shit's been going on since Jurassic Park. And you can't really say like Jurassic Park isn't a piece of cinema. I mean, it is a piece of cinema because it shifts. As long as I feel like the art is shifting some form of consciousness and people are actually leaving with value or something that's new and like is a piece of the human condition that they are truly resonating with, that's when it's real. You know what I mean? That's when, like, that's the beauty of the entire process of it. It's the most ridiculous process I can ever even fathom. There's so many moving parts. There's so much like money at risk. It's like that's why like the majority of Hollywood producers, man, they're just like degenerate gamblers, which is wonderful. It's beautiful in a sense. But aren't we all?
I mean, really, if you think about it, there's been that sort of, as you called it, sort of almost like an amusement ride, that sort of feel with things. Technically, we're talking about blockbuster films essentially here. So you'll probably go back to, I would say you probably go back to the 70s with this, with something like Star Wars, which probably started that trend. You know, so I mean, that's sort of along similar lines in a way. I think really, in a sense, the biggest problem that we've got at the moment with cinema is that there's too much of that blockbuster mentality in a way, which is getting in the way of getting more thought-provoking films out there to the public at the cinema, and why we're in a world which is not really certain of where it's going, because I think there's a fear, in a sense, that because of, I think it's been caused a lot by what's with the COVID problem, where a lot of films were there on the back burner waiting to go out, and essentially the cinema and the film studios were thinking, well, we've got this backlog of films. This sort of film that's about person one and person two in a relationship, that's not going to sell tickets as much as this film, and we've got all these films to fit into this short period, so we'll throw this lesser film, to our mind, onto a streaming platform, and we'll put this one out in the cinema. And there's a danger of that possibly shaping the future.
Oversaturation. Yeah, man. It's but you do have studios now that are just producing. It's like the difference between, like, I don't even want to say Nicolas Cage, but Nicolas Cage just ends up taking a lot of roles. But then again, he works the roles, man.
He does.
Like, you can never knock that man's, like, he'll take the most ridiculous role and he'll still rock it. But Nicolas Cage is like a little bit of a whore. Then you have like Leo, who will take, like, you know, like he vets his filmography very heavily. You have studios that are just trying to make a buck, like, you know, like Sony. But then again, at the end of the day, man, everything kind of makes sense. Like Sony has to recoup their investment, regardless of it. That's why they have, like, the Emoji Movie. But, you know, out of Sony, like, you'll get, like, I don't know, whatever X blockbuster that they're trying to release, but then they'll come out with, like, Goodfellas. You know what I mean? And Goodfellas is a testament to cinema. But right now, I think, like, the leader in all that shit is A24. But A24 has become its own meme of a studio, because they just only produce, like, Steve Carell's the dad that cares, you know, or, like, you know, whatever. But at the end of the day, they produce, like, these. Janus Films has a lot, but I feel like they're mostly archival. A24 is the one that's, like, bringing out, like, great scripts that are coming, man. They're the United Artists of our time. Yeah, I do sometimes wish I when I was making films, I was making them in the 70s. But then again, we have so much ease now. You know what I mean? Like, we have unlimited film stock. You know what I mean? If I had to, like, sit there and go through, I mean, but then again, that's the whole process of it. There's more, like, shit at stake back in the 70s, because, like, if you didn't, like, properly store your film stock, like your trade as a filmmaker was a trade, bro. Now everybody can pivot off, like, if my films don't end up selling, you know what I mean, I could be like a YouTube douchebag, or, you know what I mean, or, like, but, like, I don't know. It's a different thing between content and cinema. Like, content is, like, you know, it's just keeping everybody's, like, drug addiction to of this drug addiction that everybody has developed off of Instagram, and, like, you know, having all this shit, all the drugs in the world at one time. But now, but then you do see cinema, and it is like, it's like a breath of fresh. It's like meditating or swimming. I don't know how to really explain it. But when you do see something, you're like, wow, that was a great movie. That's kind of like how I was with the podcast with Louis C.K. I was like, wow, I just sat there for 6 hours, and I don't feel like it was 6 hours. You know what I mean? It was like, it was rewarding. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, I was, like, listening to it and, like, learning a little bit. That, and, like, the one OG documentary was sick, because it was just great filmmaking. You know what I mean? It's great telling stories. Telling stories is like an essential thing. It's the only real way that people actually, like, gain, like, perspective on the world. You know what I mean? Like, you know, just I don't know, watching like a Saatchi Ray movie or like some French New Wave and shit. Like even like studying New Wave, like you just get like a feel for not a feel for the culture, but you feel like you're transported to all these different worlds, and it's a magic. It's a real magic. But the crazy thing is if you really get really meta with it, it's just sunlight trapped on like a film. Like the mechanics of filmmaking is one thing that still like baffles me to like this day, bro. It's just it's you're capturing the sun on like on a piece of celluloid, and everybody on the piece of celluloid is in character, and it's this whole dynamic of an illusion that goes. It's beautiful if you really think. And after all the moving pieces, bro, all the fucking ego, all the, you know what I mean, dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars, sometimes maybe 20,000, but like all that shit, and and at the end of the day, it's like, all right, you still got to draw. You know what I mean? There's so many like moving parts and legs to it, and it's all worth it. The juice is always worth the squeeze, because at the end of the day, you know what I mean? Like I'll see, like I don't really have any crazy films right now. I have like Samurai versus Viking, which shout out to Neil Gazai and Reese Van Riper, my boys. Like I've worked on two of them. I worked on Marijuana Paradise. Like I was producer on Marijuana Paradise, and I did like executive producing for a like movie Gorilla per Vincente, which was one that kind of had a budget and a cast and everything. But like like after all this stupid ego and shit, man, it's like just to see that actors, man, they are like they're you at like a certain time. You know what I mean? Like the derivative of art is like an artifact. You know what I mean? It's like you're making art. Your art is like the artifact. And the artifact is like, is the film, is like, like I can still reminisce about the day that we shot like Balaclava with like my friend. And, like it makes all the difference. You know what I mean? It's not a crazy film, like, breaking up the bank or whatever, but it's, you have that moment. That's kind of why I respect one of the most the biggest filmmaker I respect the most is John Cassavetes. Yeah. He made these films called like Yeah, you heard of this guy?
Yes, I have. Absolutely.
He made films like called Shadows and Faces and like Husbands and Women Under the Influence. And that's the thing. He inspired Scorsese. Scorsese is mixed between like Orson Welles, like the very, very textbook, like this is like a medium shot and a foreground shot or whatever, New Wave, but like in America with like, but like more theater and like more structured, like, like it was a story, but he got to be able to make like real art with the shit. But one of Cassavetes' philosophies is, if you like actually like look at his cast, is it's not necessarily about it's about the film, but it's about like the experience you're having with your friends. Yep. Is really it's really the meat of it. Like, if you're having a great time, it's going to get captured on film. Like, but then again, like, I'm not saying like, if you're having a shitty time, I'm pretty sure Coppola during Apocalypse Now was having a shitty time. It was like millions of dollars. He had to like leverage his house. I'm pretty sure he was having a bad time, but he like powered through it. And that shit that's admirable is the grit of it, is the fact that you have to be like a leader. You have to be a leader. You have to be an artist. You have to be like a psychologist, a trade, the wit of like a rug trader in like the Bangladesh, bro. Like, to be able to even get the financing for the shit. Yeah. And like all those moving parts, man. And then you see the last piece and it's just fucking, even if it's not even good, you still fucking enjoy it. It's like, it's the most satisfying thing that I've ever experienced.
There's a similarity in a way between, the Coppola and the Cassavetes in a way, but where Coppola, you had films where, he was sort of like, occasionally he had to toe the line and make a specific film because he'd been asked to make a certain film, but that allowed him to then go and make the films that he was really, really behind, such as the
one for them, one for me.
one for them, one for me. So you'd get the Peggy Sue gets married, and then you'd get Apocalypse Now or The Godfather. But you'd always like one for them, one for me, one for them.
And, The Godfather was also a fucking fight for that guy.
Yes.
It's always a fight.
Yeah,
that's the crazy shit about it.
But the weird
always
thing,
a fight.
Yeah, I mean, the weird thing is that The Godfather originally, that wasn't the film that he wanted to make. It was sort of like almost forced on him to make that. But then it became such a part of him to make the film, and sometimes it works that way. And I was going to say with Cassavetes, you've got something similar because he's a hell of an actor. John Cassavetes, hell of an actor, fantastic actor. I've seen him in so many films. But he did
it to support it, man.
But he did that to support his own filmmaking and his own vision for those films that he wanted to make himself. So you've got that similarity between the two of them, where the giving and then the taking. Yeah.
Same with Coppola. That was, I think, Coppola did The Godfather to save American Zoetrope, because I think they're on like the brink of bankruptcy, and he did it, and it became a part of him. The Godfather is such a textbook study, man, of like how I like The Godfather. I just love this tale of the family and stuff. But the actual making and the techniques that guy used, man, are nuts.
Yeah.
Like, he actually took a piece from theater, where like what's it called, the prompt book. Like he took a prompt book, which is they really only use it in the theater for like cues and shit. So what he did to do it is The Godfather Notebook. They sell this textbook online, but I actually recreated one because I wanted to know the process of it, because if I ever adapt some shit, I'm totally doing that. So what you do is you buy 2 copies of the book, right?
Yep.
So he bought 2 copies of The Godfather. He slit the spine of The Godfather and taped each one of them onto a binder, right? And then he drew his notes right there on the page. So he said that the screenplay in itself was arbitrary, because he could go and see, he could see the actual author's words, and he would get his initial reaction to it, like, oh, we have to paste this up, or we have to do this, and like, he had his notes on the actual literature. The screenplay is like more of an architectural, like, blueprint, where it's like, this is a shot, this is what this guy says, this is this. You go with Scorsese, like, if you like read his scripts and you read the films, the moments everybody fucking remembers aren't in the scripts. No. None of them are in the scripts. It's just, he knows how Pesci will play off of fucking De Niro. He knows how, like, if you give Leo like an open canvas, he can create within the canvas. You have to let the actors create within the canvas. I let them create so much in the canvas that I'm just fucking lazy. I don't even give them I give them like a very basic thing, or like, here's a prop and we can like just improv off of it. But that's an art within itself, man. Improv's great though. It's but you can't necessarily improv the whole shit. But the techniques that Coppola was using. But I digress. The what's it called? He made The Godfather in order to bail out Zoetrope, man. But after he bailed it out, and like, oh man, it was the picture of the year, you know what I mean? Even though they're trying to fucking fire his ass 80% of the goddamn time. Yeah. But he came up with little crafty ways in order to maintain his position. He made The Conversation, and The Conversation is fucking, that was for him. You know what I mean? One for them, one for me, one for them, one for me. And you have to do that sometimes, man. It's like, sometimes you got to make the emoji movie. Sometimes you'll make Goodfellas, but Goodfellas will still exist, and the emoji movie, I don't know. I never saw After Hours. Actually, I think I should see After Hours. I don't know how many blemishes are on Scorsese's filmography. I don't know. I really don't know, because every one I've watched is pretty damn good. I mean, granted, Silence. It's mostly sales. It's not like he's like being lazy. That's the crazy thing about it. I don't know. Maybe Boxcar Bertha, but then that's him learning, man. He can't hold that against the guy.
So, what inspired you to become a filmmaker yourself?
I was living in Union City, New Jersey, and I was working as a busboy and like a bartender, and I was a waiter, and I was going to culinary school and all this shit. Yeah. I quit my job and I was doing photography at the time, just as like a little hobby. I was just fucking around with my ex-girlfriend's like Canon, and I was making music at the time. I wanted to be like a music producer. I was very like inspired by like Jay Dilla and fucking DJ Premier and like all these soul samples guys. I have like a pretty extensive like music library. So it was always a toss up between the two because I was a pretty decent photographer. I do like headshots, just like random street photography. But it was a toss up between the two. I moved to Brooklyn, and I was just still continuing that. And I was living in this kind of a place that I'm in now, where it's like a huge loft area. It was 2-floor loft. The bottom. So I lived in the dojo. My landlord was this like 300-pound Dominican guy.
Yep.
And he would like fight off like 5 people at the same time. So he'd be like, "Yo, man, you gotta turn up the fucking the electricity and trying to pay your bill." I mean, it was nuts. This place is nuts too. Like I'll open the door sometimes and it's just like Buddhist monks like meditating or like a crazy ska band. Shout out to Prototype. What's it called? But I was living over there and I'd never left New Jersey. And me and my ex broke up. And I was just wondering what I should do with my damn life because I had these two things that I enjoyed. So I was my sister was in Calabasas. She networks with like a bunch of like rich motherfuckers. So she was living in Calabasas and Montreal. They said that I would need like 8 years or something to get citizenship there in order to like live in Montreal. So I moved to Calabasas and I lived with my sister for a little bit. And I really wanted to work for Rick Rubin because he had Shangri-La at the time. Before Shangri-La actually became like new. It was like a fairly new studio at the time. So I wanted to intern for him. Never got to intern for Rick Rubin, but whatever. So my sister was like kind of crazy off LA. And when I was there, I was still trying to make music and stuff, but I started to realize that like movies in itself was just a very advanced form of photography.
Yeah.
Like it was like you could get the still image, you know what I mean? And it's a very like focused piece. But to have like a starting image and then carry it, music, and it was a mix between. I started to like fall in love with it because it was a mix of all these things, man. It was like literature, music, theater, colors, the painting. It's the embodiment of everything is film because it's a very hard thing to do. And I liked that challenge. I was like, wow, this is like way better. So what I ended up doing was Martin Scorsese, he published a list of like 85 films that you're supposed to see to actually like understand filmmaking. And I started watching them and I was watching them and I would just screen cap every single frame because I wanted to understand the photography so much more. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? It would improve my photography because even if I just stayed as a photographer, if I watched them and I understood all these frames, so I started screen capping like every frame of the films. And then when that apartment fell, I was in like another loft. When that apartment fell, like I didn't have a place to go surfing then. And I would park outside of my storage because I had like Wi-Fi, and I would just sit there and I would watch like 4 films a day, like not have to worry about any like actual like house expense and like, nothing like, I didn't have to go to work or whatever. Like I just kind of just sat there and I just studied all these damn films for like a couple months, and I would just screen cap every damn frame. And I would just study the intricacies of it, you know what I mean? But it was like the films that you wouldn't even like, it was like a chore sometimes, man. Like if you ever watch like The Reed, I think it's like Eric von Stroheim, it was like a 4-hour silent. It was like nuts, bro. A 4-hour silent film isn't like a fun thing to do anymore. It's very like, it's not really entertaining. It's more about like, oh, you get the perspective of it. And when it's mentioned, you're like, oh, this is why they do this, but it's like, it's kind of a necessary chore. So I realized if I studied the history of it, I would have a lot more perspective. And then I found a film program in Los Angeles called at LACC. And I started film school there. And I went there for like 3 years. You know, you get a lot of, you know, like some people shit on film school. And granted, like they kind of have a reason, because like you don't necessarily need it. But it doesn't, the network and the people that you meet, it's mostly the network of people. But then again, there is shit that like they'll teach you there that you're not going to get like anywhere else. Like nobody's going to teach you. I mean, it's like you'll learn grip. You'll be able to find a job as a grip. Like, you know, you have to like start out as an assistant and work your way up. But like, you know, but I went there for 3 years. I got my degrees, and met as I was there, I was taking this has actually led to my first film, or the first film I worked on that was like really mine. But like while I was there, I got to develop I got to understand how to really do shit. So like I wrote the script for one of my first features, or my first short film, Highland. Yeah. Like over there, I got a couple, you know, I got like somewhat of a voice. I realized that I really enjoyed screenwriting. I'd never written a script before going to school there. And I was taking a journalism class because I realized that journalism was like more of a faster form of film. It's not necessarily filmmaking, but you have to tell a story. Like you have to tell a story in journalism. You have to tell a story every day, which is, you know, if filmmakers had that kind of drive in order to produce every day, like you have to produce every day. Yep. That's kind of what I've fallen back on with my stills, is because I can do a still every day, and it's not necessarily a film, but it's close to a film, you know, but you have to produce it every day. As long as you're exercising every day, you can get towards that goal. So I was taking a journalism class, and what's it called? But I was also taking editing at the same time. So I was taking journalism and editing, and I'd smoked like a really fat blunt, and I was going to editing class because I had to sit in front of a fucking computer for like 6 hours. So I smoked a blunt, and this older Russian lady was like, "You smell like marijuana," and I was like, "Because I smoke marijuana." So she was like, "Do you want to come to Marijuana Paradise?" And I was like, "Marijuana Paradise?" And I was like, and then she pulls up this trailer, and it's like it's this 3-minute trailer, like people like jumping off of like waterfalls, and like people like growing weed, and like, you know, like quads and guns, and like, you know, all this shit. I was like, hell yeah, I want to go to Marijuana Paradise. So during trimming season for Northern California, so we're in Los Angeles. I get on a Greyhound with this the Russian lady. So we go up to Redding for trimming season, and we what's it called? You know, like I'm getting a profile of this whole like cannabis lifestyle, and it's you know, how the mountain works. You know what I mean? It's basically, so it's like a cabin in the middle of the woods, like maybe like 30 miles away from everything. And they were doing a documentary on the Northern California cannabis scene. And I just really wanted to do like a cool like article from like my class. And I went up there, I did like the little profile, I took some photos and stuff. And like, you know, I met the dude who was like doing the directing for it. A couple days later, they're like, "Yo, like we really want you to produce it," and I was like, "Hell yeah!" So I got a lawyer, like I provided them with like agent. You know, I did like, you know, make posters, like a lot of the business side of it. So I helped produce this documentary, but that was like the first like piece that I worked on. But the problem, one thing I learned from it was like, if everybody that's on the team isn't working like towards the same objective, like the director, like everybody like blew up his head to the point where he thought he was like fucking like Quentin Tarantino or some shit. You know what I mean? It's a very basic documentary, but the thing is, we did this like around like 2016. This is before like Murder Mountain and before like a lot of the cannabis stuff actually got onto Netflix. So it was like a marketable property. The dude, a decent editor, a guy doesn't know how to tell a story. Can shoot with the best of them, can edit very stylishly, does not know how to tell a story for the life of him. This is a Ukrainian guy. But my Russian mom can tell a story very well. Like she's like a novelist. She has like a couple of novels, or like I think they were released in like South Korea or Russia, but she worked in radio for a long time. But she knew how to tell a story and like how to really like, you know, form the ball of it. And this guy just had a bunch of little pieces, the pieces to make the thing. And you had the person who can like actually structure it. So basically, the team kind of like fell apart because this one guy's ego and like nobody wanted to work together. And I'm sitting here and demand more money or whatever, like a cool release where we rented out a theater, we attracted, you know, we brought everybody in, and it was great. But it's just the whole project kind of fell apart, and like, you know, we would have been able to release it and be able to edit it and like, you know, have it marketed and get to be first to market and actually like make money from the piece if everybody just worked together. So then after that, I don't know, we you know, I would still work at the farm. I had my own farm at that point. I would go and I started cultivating plants. Then after that, we started on another project, which was more of like a fiction, like a fictional way of like Marijuana Paradise.
Yep.
It was called Gorilla for Vincente. And we had a budget this time. Like, you know, we had saved money from like, you know, harvests and stuff. And we put it towards this production. I think it was like $100,000 or like $50,000 or something around that. So we put up a lot of money for this thing. We hired a cast, brought everybody up from LA, you know, got a bunch of REs, a bunch of professionals and stuff. And it was good. It's just, it's still in the editing process. We haven't, it hasn't been released. We have a couple of trailers and stuff on YouTube, but I just kind of like, I helped when I could. I wrote some scenes. It was just crazy because it just has to be a cohesive team. That's kind of why I like being home a little bit now, is because a lot of the people that I grew up with, like they're excited for this. Like people in like LA, they end up having like somewhat of an overinflated thing. Like a lot of the people you run into, like you'll deal with a person that's like, you know, fresh out of community college and they think they're like Brad Pitt, bro. It's like, dude, like we still have to work. We have to become these things, you know, not like I'm nothing yet. You know what I mean? Like we're still, even when we get to that point, you should still act like, you know, because we're just an artist, bro. We're only here to make these artifacts like while we're here. But you deal, like, I like being home because it's a little bit like some people have like somewhat of an ego. I think that's just the human quality that you have to deal with as a director. But you deal with you make the pieces, and it's a lot easier to make pieces with people that you trust and the people that you love. You know what I mean? And like, even if they're not the best person for the piece, if they are truly enjoying themselves and they're truly there for you, and like you're truly there for them, regardless of it, it's going to show up on film. And it's that goes back to the Cassavetes thing, man, where it's you know, like we're here to have a good time. We're here to have a good experience. And if we're all having a good experience, man, it's going to show up on the film. And even if it's not like the best story, you know what I mean? It doesn't have to be uncut gems, but you know, we're here and we're having a good time. We're doing our job, and we're going to reap the benefits of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you
sorry if that was a little bit of a rant.
That's fine. That's fine. I'll mention something in passing that you were mentioning about the Martin Scorsese when you were studying those films that he'd suggested that you need to watch, and you were mentioning that you took notes. You were like doing screen grabs
every frame. I have like 37,000 frames.
And it reminded me of when I saw Scorsese's film Hugo, how it's something really incredible about that, where he has reshot scenes that the great Georges Méliès filmed back in the day, and he actually shot them and showed you how that magic came about back in the day. And he did such an incredible job of doing it that it's an amazing thing to watch. I mean, it's a good film in itself, but those bits when it goes back and shows you him making the films themselves, those bits they're like film magic.
Yeah, man. It's a beautiful process, dude. You know, there's just so much history, man. It's like It's like how some people, like, you have to, my internet's unstable, isn't it? Okay. What's it called? How like painters, like, in order to study, they'd like repaint the old masters, man. Or like I think it was Hunter S. Thompson was the one who he would rewrite like old Hemingway novels and stuff, like, on a typewriter, in order to just feel how the words flowed.
Yeah.
And I tried that a couple times. It's very tedious. Not I don't have as much drive to be a writer than I do as a filmmaker. You know, I don't know. Maybe I'm just lazy nowadays. But yeah, man, what's it called? It's part of the process. You know, it's just is having reference images, man, and just seeing how the light's hitting, seeing people's styles, you know, and then from like basically how I feel like I've developed is I'm like a fondue, for lack of a better term, is just to be like a fondue of, like, you know, like, here's like Haskell Wexler's, and, like, you know, his like gritty ass shots, Prieto with his, like, you know, his longer takes, you know, like how Orson Welles will be like more textbook and, like, you know, very like filmic, like, you know, foreground, background, like, you know, these like weird like 3-point perspectives and stuff. And you have like Kubrick, you know, you have all these things. And, you know, if you do your history and you truly appreciate all of it and you're really studying it, it's gonna rub off. It rubs off on you subconsciously. You're not necessarily like copying people. Like, Tarantino literally takes the shot itself and recreates the shot just because he just samples it. And it's not that it's not, you know, it's not in its right place. It's, you know, he's creating something new. You know what I mean? Like, you can't tell me that like Reservoir Dogs isn't a piece of art, like, or Pulp Fiction. Like, you know, the dancing scene in Pulp Fiction is like from like a Godard movie. You know, it's but it's, you know, it's part of like cinema language. It's more like any of it, but it echoes back to it. You know, you're paying homage, man. You're paying homage by doing things.
Yeah, it's like when Tarantino did Jackie Brown. That was a blaxploitation film from the 70s, filmed at that time. So he was paying homage to those films from the 70s, but bringing it up to date. And I mean, that's my favorite Tarantino film.
Really, Jackie Brown's your favorite?
Jackie Brown is my favorite Tarantino. Wow. Yeah,
getting some criticism from the Salts, man.
I know I will from some people.
Which one are you going for, man? Which one's your favorite one?
I'm a simple guy. Pulp Fiction for me.
Eric Saltzman, Pulp Fiction, ladies and gentlemen.
To be honest, I don't think you can go wrong with any Tarantino film.
Grindhouse, not actually, but then again, I don't know. You got it. I was like, yeah, hold on a second. I do have a beef with Hateful Eight.
Okay.
Hateful Eight, man. It was when I was in school, like they had I don't know who it was. I think it was like a Weinstein Company or somebody was producing that shit. But they had a person that was going like film school to film school and was like, "Yeah, this movie is gonna be amazing. It's shot on like super 80 millimeter, whatever, like the film stock on it was supposed to be the huge film stock that you can get every detail. It's like the equivalent of like 1 million megapixels or whatever. And you know what I mean? Like the whole shit's just shot in a log cabin. Like you don't really even need that much. Like, do you really need that much detail? Like it's the same. It's just a set, man. It's a single setting place. I mean, granted, like, you know, there's some like scenes where it's just all the snow and whatever, but I like the stage play aspects of it, man. I'm not necessarily. Are you hateful of the eight?
If you're going for a film that has a very stage play feel to it, then I'd personally go for my favorite of that sort of shot film would be Alfred Hitchcock's Rope. I think that's an incredible film, and it is shot like a play.
Oh, I love that.
It's
man.
Fantastic.
The film. Single shot.
The single shot. Yeah.
Shot, man. It's crazy. It's one shot the entire film. Yeah, it's nuts. You think Birdman was crazy, man? That guy was doing this shit in the 60s.
Absolutely. And
Yeah, that's great.
you know, and yeah, that is my favorite film director as well, Hitchcock.
Oh yeah, you're a Hitchcock guy. Yeah, what's your favorite Hitchcock one? You Strangers on the Train? When you fucking Psycho?
Possibly Vertigo.
You going with that? Vertigo? Yeah, I agree. Vertigo's
Possibly.
fucking is beautiful. Yeah,
It is.
I used to think it would be boring. Like before I watched it, I had like this weird like connotation, and I was like, it's gonna be another like '60s film. And then you watch like how intricate like the colors and like how the story winds out. Man, that guy could tell a fucking story. Man, that guy was a great storyteller.
Absolutely.
I think I'm Strangers on a Train. Strangers on a Train was crazy from there. Yeah.
I love the fact that, you know, Hitchcock was basically inventing storyboards back in the 30s and the 40s. I mean, he was using what became standard for most filmmakers. Before that time, they weren't as intricately storyboarded, I don't think, as he did, because basically he said famously that he'd already made the film on storyboards and in his mind before he'd even shot it. It was all there drawn out and written out.
No, I didn't know that. I didn't know. So, I mean, I know it was a heavy story. He just goes off on the intricacies of it, but I didn't know he was like one of the pioneers of it. I thought it was more of an animation thing.
But and then you mentioned somebody you were saying about Tarantino, where he was, you know, inspired by other people, and then he'd like do his variations of shots. That reminds me of somebody like you know, even going back to Sergio Leone when he was making, you know, the Fistful of Dollars, where which is straight off of Kurosawa. You know,
Kurosawa.
Yeah.
That shit. It's crazy to me, man. Like Magnificent Seven. Kurosawa fucking like created the Western. That's the crazy shit about it. Samurais created the Western. That's a weird deviation. But you know what's even crazier is the fact that Sergio Leone is just like an Italian guy, and he was just like really into like the American West that he created. You know what I mean? But the fact that an Italian guy was really into the American West took from samurai movies. You know what I mean? But then again, Star Wars too.
Star Wars, The Hidden Fortress.
Yeah, Hidden Fortress. Yeah.
By Kurosawa.
I haven't seen Hidden Fortress yet. I really got to see that. It's one of the ones on my list. I'm mostly like Rashomon and fucking Yojimbo.
Yojimbo, fantastic film.
Yeah,
Rashomon as well.
Yeah, I remember looking at those stills, man. Those shit's crazy. Yeah, he's fucking wonderful, man. For a while, I actually used to bite off of Akira Kurosawa because he rocks like the really dark sunglasses. It's like a trademark of his. I used to think that like if you were rocking that darker sunglasses, that your eyes get a little bit more sensitive to the light. I don't know if that's true or not, but yeah, man, fucking it doesn't necessarily resonate so much anymore. Mm-hmm. No.
But with Leone, with his filmmaking, you've got this. He used to have this. He had this really good thing of, especially in the spaghetti westerns, he'd have shots where you had weird shots where you'd have just the eyes, or you'd have certain looks for characters or whatever. He didn't care. He didn't have this thing about, you know, this person's got to look. All these people have got to look incredible. It's about almost like these quiet, sort of strange-looking people he'd have in shots to keep telling the story, and also there's something about his economy with dialogue as well, where like a film like Once Upon a Time in the West, you've got absolutely no dialogue for about 40 minutes or something, but you know what's going on. It's still telling the story without any dialogue at all, and his vistas and his close-ups, he knew how to use the camera and how to get a good shot. That's a testament to good
cinema, man. That's a testament to good cinema. Is if you could turn the sound off on a film and know exactly what's happening, that means you have like your visual. It's a language, man. It's a visual language. If you can tell the story with just the sound off and like go frame by frame, that's why the benefit of just screen capping all the frames is that like you can just go through all of them and be like, and you can get the whole story. You can understand what's happening. And you can I mean, it deprives you of the beauty of like actual like written word, but you can see where it is, and that's how cinematographers really, you could see like where their real thing is. You know what I mean? It's is that they can really either you could do it storyboarding, you could do it like off of just instinct, but you could see what's happening like through just the frame, and every frame should be a Rembrandt. Yeah.
So how do you actually develop an idea for a film and then produce it?
In terms of like developing an idea, I have maybe like 15 concepts, but what I end up doing most of the time is I'll hear a song, or I'll have a vague, not necessarily vague, but I'll have like kind of a log line, or like a very like, you know what I mean? It's like butterflies or some shit, and you're capturing this one butterfly. And the one butterfly is like, you could boil down a lot of the movies down to the log line, and I'll get a log line or like a very basic concept, and then I'll start to develop the visuals of the actual thing. I'll hear like my main tether to revisiting a concept is that I will have the song. If I have the song of like Mums, I know it's like Mums is one of my projects. I can revisit, I can go back into that state of mind in terms of like, I could kind of teleport back into it, and I have an entire line of artwork, like how a fashion designer will do seasons.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like Phantom Thread's visuals are very different than Punch Drunk Love. Punch Drunk Love, like how the theme of something, like, you know what I mean? But I'll have a song, and I'll listen to that song like a million times, and I will develop. This is how I want the grain to be. This is how, like, you know, the colors and all the shit. This is the characters, and this is like, you know, how kooky they are. So I'll go and I'll listen to the song. I'll write as much as I can, or I'll develop the characters. And then I'll map out. I'll do maybe like a bunch of bullets, where I have the actual story arc, and it'll all be scenes where I'm like, this person is like, this is how we introduce this person. This is how we introduce this person. This is where the journey begins. This is like, you know, a set fight or whatever. Not necessarily to make it so like to the T, but I'll listen to the song, and I'll flow with it via that. And sometimes, man, sometimes it comes and it's a fight, but most of the times I end up just coming up with it in like a single, like there'll be like a single night, and then you do like a reroute, like a crazy like rewrite, but you have to manifest on it. Like the thing is, I'll develop these characters, and I'll develop them more and more and more, because you're basically, as the director, you're kind of playing all the parts, and you're seeing where these people and how this person would talk. You know what I mean? Like for Shakedown Cop, we have like Jerry and Reese Cartone. Like Jerry's like the ruffled, the rusted like cop that's been on the beat for like a long time, and Reese is like the hotshot one's kind of like colors.
Yeah.
But my strength as a director is that I'm a very good photographer at this point, because I've just been doing it for like a long time. Yeah. I see visually more than I see in terms of literature, but when I have the actual like voice of the characters, it comes out very well. It comes out natural. Like I don't really like it to be like, "Oh, Jim, you do this." I don't like that shit. I like how people really talk, like the way, you know, like, you know, I like how people talk, and how so you have to listen to the actual rhythm of dialogue, and listen to like the how somebody can tell a joke, or like a joke is a story, like, and just, you know, putting those little intricate things, because the reason everybody's actually there to watch your shit is that they want to hear a story, man. They want to hear like a very well told story that will actually give them some type of perspective, some type of value. So once I understand the characters more, and sometimes, man, sometimes it could take a fucking single day. Sometimes it'll take weeks. Sometimes sometimes they don't ever really show up, and I give it to the actor, and the actor develops them.
Yeah.
But the actor really has to fucking to embody the role. You know what I mean? They really have to. They have to make it their own. You know, you could see how somebody talks. Like the way an actor will interpret a script, and if you give it to them, is very different. But then again, that's up to casting. Like a lot of the if you have a good stable of people, that's kind of why I'm like, I'm an actor. I'm not really an actor, but like I take acting classes just because if I see somebody, or like I understand like how somebody works, you can write for them. And writing, that's Tarantino's secret, really, is that he knows that he can cast Samuel L. Jackson, and he knows how Sam acts, you know, like what he'll bring to a role. So he'll talk. He understands Samuel L. Jackson because they've worked for a long time. Yep. So he'll write the part for him, and you know, he'll get what he wants because he knows that he's writing for Sam, and Sam like likes that shit. I'll write. I mean, like sometimes I'll write as like an actual exercise, and like I'll create the characters, and I'm not necessarily writing for anybody. Sometimes I'll write the role for the people that I have available, and then sometimes you just write for, you know, what is possible, what can actually just make the damn film. Because sometimes a lot of people, they get in their heads so deep that they make something that's not even makeable. They make, like, you know, it's like, well, then the aliens come, and then the car chase, and then it's like, dude, like, are you really gonna have a fucking budget for any of this shit, or are we even gonna make it? You know what I mean? I'd rather have like something get made, and like, you know, like, and it's something that like somebody I know that will do this thing to actually see it get made. Like, you have to write for something that's gonna get made rather than write for something. But sorry about that. I don't go on tangents, but what's it called? I'll listen to a song a lot of the times, and I'll come up with a lot of the visuals over there. Like if I hear a song, I can come up sometimes with the whole montage of like of how the images are like flowing. Like, you know, for like Shakedown Cop, we have like this whole crazy montage for Simonite's Bra, and it's just like, you know, sunrise. You know, it's all these beautiful shots that and they're not even like made yet, but I know the images so well in my head that I just get it. You know what I mean? Like I know, and I know how to achieve the shots, and I know where they are. You know what I mean? Like I've made the montage into something that I can actually make. It's just being in the actual mode of production is the thing. That's why that's my biggest quip with filmmaking, is that there's so much like moving. The moving parts are the challenge that like everybody seeks, but or not necessarily me, is the challenge like I seek, but it's not the I don't know. It's just, you know, it's not as easy as photography. You take your image and you're just seeing life as it is, and you can react to life as it is as a photographer, and you can react to life as it is as a filmmaker as well. But it's not as logical. Like if you get a frame as a photographer, as a street photographer, you find the beauty in the daily. Like, you know what I mean? And it's just, this is just life as it is, and this is something I saw, and this is like, you know, and you know, it can tell a story. It can be a flower vendor, you know, on Valentine's Day when the light is just hitting him perfectly, you know, like, and that's a very easy film. It's not a film, but it's like, it's a film to me. But when you have these concepts, it's a lot deeper, you know what I mean? And it's a lot of it's kind of boils down to politics, and it boils down to, you know, logistics and money and all this shit. That's kind of why I like the freedom of being a photographer, but the challenge of being a filmmaker is really what I strive for. Yeah, it's like I take a lot of samurai philosophy into it. It's the only real way you can kind of get by into it. Yeah, I don't know who it was. I think it was Mizoguchi. He made, you know, Musashi over here. This one samurai, Miyamoto Musashi.
Yep.
He wrote like the code of the samurai. Like it's called the Dakota, and it's like I think it was like 21 or 28. I actually have it as my background, but I'm being lazy right now. But it's the code of the samurai, and one of the first ones is, or no. I think this is actually in the Bushido, the book of Bushido. And one of the things that resonated to me from that book was is if you don't try to hit your mark as a person, you die a dog's death, which is kind of, what you have to strive for. It's just, knowing what you're actually striving for. You know what I mean? Like my two things, man, is I'm always just going to do cannabis and I'm always going to make films. Those are the only two things I really want to do. All of my days are concentrated towards becoming a better filmmaker, and providing for my family. Those are the only two things I really, and it's just a concentrated effort day by day by day. Is actually Rashad, right? If we're gonna recall back to him, his motto is day by day, getting better and better, and that's what you got to do, man. You really got to do. You really got to do that shit. It's just it's the only real purpose we have in this world right now is this, take care of all the people and get better at our arts, man. And we're doing it right now.
Yeah. So in a sense, then you've got a basic idea of where you want the film to go from start to finish, and then it's a back and forth between you, the cast, and everybody else involved in the making of the film, and you build the film from that. So long as it tells the story that you want to tell, anything that anybody else suggests that you are open to, and if it works, and you put it in there, and if not, then you carry on almost a dialogue between the creatives, essentially.
Yeah, basically. Like I like to leave a lot of room for the actor to create. That's because it kind of calls back to the Marijuana Paradise thing. The person who wants absolute control has absolutely no control. Yeah. And when you start to realize that people are people, and you just kind of like I've learned it, like just living with people. Like I could be like, this is the mastermind Matthew Zeitoun bullshit, where it's this is mums, and you have to deliver it like this, and if it's deviating from the fundamental, like the actual goal, yep. You know what I mean? If it's like if my character is like a cop and now suddenly he wants to become an insurance salesman and it's not a script, I'm like, I'm the check of that. I'm like, yo, what are you doing? Just can you please deliver it like this? And it's if it's just not getting it, you just gotta cut it. But like in terms of like if this, he wants to approach it with a raspy voice, or if he wants to make it this like thing, that's up to the actor, man, because you're enlisting these people are mercenaries, and they're there for you. I mean, granted, you're paying these people, but like they're there for you, and you have to. They're artists, and actors, great artists, bro. It's very hard. It's a very hard job to act. What's it called? But if you're trying to like control these people, then you're just playing with dolls, man. You're not collaborating. You're just so in your own head about like how something should be that you're not going to let anything actually be. You know what I mean? Like sometimes I think so, like I'll run into the problem where it's like, oh no, like, I had this envision for this or this and that. But if you know that you are hiring like a real professional, you know what I mean? Like if somebody is an actual professional of it, bro, they're going to bring out some shit. And just being like receptive to it and saying yes to the universe, man. If you just let them work and actually be the artist that they are, because that's the reason you hired them, right? You're the one who said yes on them. You just let them be the artist that they are, unless they're like completely going off and like doing their own thing. You know what I mean? Where it's like that was one of the problems with Gorilla for Vincente, is that we had this one producer guy who's like, he was a producer and you're supposed to like schedule everything and like keep it all good, but our lead was like the story's about like a Mexican boy tries to provide for like his like fiance by growing weed in Northern California. And it was a Mexican guy. And then we had, he hired like this theater guy, and the one theater guy had like a nervous breakdown because it was like, oh man, there's so much weed or whatever. Like he thought it was in like a crime zone. It was just a bunch of growers, man. I don't know. It's just, some people are just pussies. What's it called? So we had this one producer, man, and it was a Ukrainian guy, as clear skin as a napkin. He was like, I'll be Vincente. And I'm like, bro, what is this, Tropic Thunder, bro? Like, you know what I mean? But we had, they were trying to cast me because I guess I look like a Jewish Mexican. That's ends up being the race I ended up getting grouped into. They're trying to cast me, but I'm not really an actor. But I was like, yo, Russian mom, I'm here for you. If you need me to act, I'll like, you know, like whatever, I'll do it. But we had this one kid who was what's it called? Who was driving cars. Like he was like they only hired him just so he can drive. And the guy's Guatemala. He was driving cars. He was only there. He's not really an actor. He's made some films. This is William Hernandez. He's one of the hardest workers I've ever met in my life, bro. I really miss him if he sees this podcast or if I can send it to him, whatever. But what's it called? Yeah, dude, this kid, bro, wasn't an actor. It didn't sign up for the shit. But you know, like he brought that's the shit, man. Is like because you don't like they hired this guy who had all the training in the world. You know what I mean? This like real thespian who was like, you know what I mean? Like you know the guy who like wants to be an actor, and then you can get the guy who's just driving.
You've muted yourself, Matthew.
Unmute. Am I good now?
Yep, can hear you now.
I don't know what happened. Well, anyway, what's it called? So this guy, he was just only supposed to do the cars, and then when the one thespian guy like backed out of the film.
Yep.
It was between either me or Will, and then we had the one guy who was like a Ukrainian white guy who was fighting for the role of like a young Mexican youth. So we picked Will, and Will is just like a hardworking dude, and you know, regardless of how ridiculous the scene was, he was there for the family, and he was there to see it out, and that's the testament, man. It doesn't necessarily like, you know, Will's not like Daniel Day-Lewis, but you know, he is the best person. Like you could find somebody who's the best person for the job at that time, and that's the thing, man. You just let them collaborate. Yeah, and that was Guerrilla for something. You learn a lot, man. You learn a lot on every like little project, you know.
It's the reason why we do these things, isn't it? Because every time that we do them, we hope that we learn something each time, and that we do something based on what we've learned. We do better next time, or we learn from things that happened before.
Day by day, getting better. Day by day, getting better and better. Rashad Wright quote right there, man. Yeah, it's very true.
So what projects have you got ahead then? And you can tell people about this podcast that you're coming up with as well in this, and any films.
We have Shakedown Cop and Art Dealer. Shakedown Cop, we're kind of waiting. I might want to wait maybe till like fall to get it done. But we have Art Dealer, which is coming soon. Basically, the building out of the studio downstairs is kind of delayed it a little bit. But Art Dealer is it's kind of a mockery on like the modern art on the modern art market. We got Neil Gazai returning as what's it called? It's a great concept, man. It's gonna be so much fun. But from the creative mind of Neil Gazai, get to collaborate on that again. Haven't done that since Samurai versus Viking. And then after that, we have Shakedown Cop. That's in like the fall. And if we can get the financing, man, we have this one project called Brochambeau. It's called The Art of Didi Mao, and it's basically a concept of like a Russian roulette like tournament, or like the training of people going into the Russian roulette like scene. It's pretty good. But yeah, we have all those scripts like done. Couple little pieces here and there. I kind of just keep everything fresh going by like just taking photos every day and do some writing here and there, but mostly it's just the build out of the studio is the majority of the yeah, man. But yeah, that's kind of what I got going on right now. You know, work on the kid a little bit, you know, get some shots in, and trying to get a podcast going soon. You know, just more casual.
So before we get to talking about the podcast very quickly, because it's still informative, the films then, so how do you get the money together, and then how do you actually, do you have a certain company that you market the films through and distribute through, that you have a back and forth with?
Well, sometimes for the films that I've made so far, they're like kind of like one day little shorts. I save, man. I believe in actually, like, a lot of people tell you to rent. Um, I believe in owning your own kit and having the actual means of production. I feel like, I mean, like, you can go and like rent a kit and do whatever, man. But like, verses aren't that much. I mean, they're like a decent amount of money, but it's like, like I work pretty hard to be able to like all my energy goes towards this. I don't have any kids right now. I know that I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. I could sit here and be like, well, I could shop it to all these people and whatever, man. But at the end of the day, like, there's a really good meme that I saw where and it was this one tech guy, Paul Graham, where it was like the an IQ spectrum, and at the end of the spectrum, it was like a retarded guy. It was like a retarded like face. He's like, it just says make stuff, and then it like goes up to like the IQ like spectrum or whatever. It goes like up like a little bit, and it's like plan, organize, pitch, like all these like things. And there's like person like with like glasses that are like, and then it goes to like a Jedi, and it just says make stuff. And at the end of the day, bro, it's you just you have to have the means of production in order. Like if you're gonna do a job in sheet metal, you gotta have a good hammer, or like, you know what I mean. If you're trying to be a construction worker, have good tools. You gotta buy like DeWalt. Don't buy like Ryobi. So I believe in like owning my equipment. So whenever people want to actually go and make something, I'm there for it, man. People pay me for it. But like whenever I want to make something that's personally satisfying, like, I can go and do it. And like, that's the beauty of doing street photography too, is that you're just open to what you can make out of that. You don't necessarily need all the shit for it. I mean, if you're trying to make a big production and you're trying to go and like hire a bunch of people and do whatever, you could either save, you could go and try to get some grants, but like that's where like the politics and like a bunch of like other shit goes into it, man. But at the end of the day, man, your network is your net worth. You just gotta like know who can facilitate the right things in order for you to make your things. You have to make your things. But if you're moving forwards towards like that like true north, you'll be fine.
So what would you suggest to people then if they wanted to start going into filmmaking for themselves?
I would suggest that even though I'm saying like go and get it, like, you can go and like save money and buy a good kit and do whatever. Don't be so pretentious about the actual like you could be in your head so much about the quality of like your camera, and at the end of the day, bro, you end up falling into this cycle of gear collecting, where it's I need this in order to do that. I need this. Like we shot Balaclava, man, and Balaclava was on like an iPhone, and then we shot another one, and like I put a little bit more money towards it, and I had two like little red cam phones, like they were both shot on phones. Yep. But I had two cameras, a 2-camera set. They're like $100 each, so $200. And it's like, I mean, you can sell it to Netflix, but it's like, it's something that'll stand the test of time with like me and my friends or whatever. And, like, don't get so in your head about it. And at the end of the day, bro, you can just be creative. Like, a lot of people, they're very scared of the unknown, like, like being like afraid of the dark. Just, while the shit is happening, you're gonna adapt, while you're actually swimming. And that's the fun of it now, is like when you're being creative on like, some shit goes wrong, you know what I mean? Like some shit goes wrong, like say the one person doesn't want to do the thing, then you get Will as an actor. Sometimes shit just happens for a reason, and you work around it, and that's your job, to be like, is being creative, man. Is like you have to be like a whole rounded person, rather than the very like solo experience of taking photos. I mean, not necessarily solo experience. Like you and the subject have a relationship most of the time. I don't even most of the time. Sometimes it's just voyeurism. At least for me, it's voyeurism, because I can't be paying all these subjects.
I mean, I've mentioned this as it's mentioned in another episode that I've done before, not too long ago, where I use the example with that where, when you said sometimes things don't work or do work or whatever, I always use the example of the shark in Jaws not working. That ended up making that film a lot better because there was that element of suspense. Yeah. Whereas if you had the shark working throughout the entire film, I don't think it would be the same film.
You have to work, bro. You have to find a way around it. You can't sit around. If something goes wrong, you can't just like sit on your ass and be like, it's not going to be on. Life doesn't go any way anybody wants, bro. You have to just go. You could sit there and be like, you could take a minute and meditate on like, oh wow, this is fucked up or whatever. Like I think like Drake or something, he said it was like a 3-day rule. If something is bothering you like 3 days later, it really doesn't matter. But like, you just if something's going wrong, man, you just take a necessary course of action and you gotta go. You just gotta go. Some shit will bother you. Sometimes you just gotta. This guy over here, Alex Bergman, he gave me a really good insight called like equilibrium. And you have to develop that, and that's a skill you develop. Like, but you can only really develop it if you're actually putting your ass to the fire. So you come with this equilibrium where it's like something's not going your way, and you center yourself, and you're like, all right, well this isn't going this way, so we have to go, and boom, and then you just keep going, man. Just keep marching forward, man. You just be creative in the moment. If something's going wrong, you know what I mean? Say the money is pulled or whatever, or like you could still make it. Even, I mean, granted, if it's like a contract for hire and they want somebody else, but like whatever. But then, dude, it's just not meant to be. But you can't let anything stop you. You really can't. It's there's a lot of tremendous disappointments in everybody's life, either money or family or whatever. You can't let that shit fuck with you. You got to keep going. Or you're dying a dog's death. You got to go back to the samurai code. Granted, not everybody follows it. But, well, my
rules to live by. So, Afternoon with Zeitoun. Then I love that title for the podcast.
I don't know, man. Still got to make it work.
It's a hook now, though.
Still a very loose concept, but I don't know. I wanted to actually the what's it called? I don't want it to be as structural. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And I like very loose structure for it. I don't want it to be like. But then again, I see like actual like shows that are produced as podcasts, man, and like really is a great art form. Man. If you really get it rocking, it's a beautiful art form. Yeah. I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out. You know what I mean? It's just a new medium too, but I feel like it's a faster form of filmmaking too.
Yeah, it's definitely a medium that's taken shape recently.
Yeah, we're telling stories like there's got to be like some background. Like you just heard my background, like the whole story. I would love to just pick people's brains, man, and to see where it is. You become a better conversationalist. You know what I mean? It's a lot of development shit for it. Mostly for me. You know what I mean? But everything. I mean, the one for them, one for me. But Afternoon FM is for me, man. So you get to. I really want to see, because the insight that you get from people and learning from people, man, you can go and like watch 1 million YouTube videos. Sometimes you'll learn more from the conversation or from like an actual person than you'll learn in any college course, man. Any college course. But yeah, I don't know. I'm still trying to figure it out. I got the mics and I got a pod tracker and a dream and a domain name that's kind of running up a little bit of money, but it's whatever, man. It's somewhere weak. But yeah, man. I don't know.
Well, the concept sort of fits you because, I mean, your filmmaking is very realistic anyway, and it's just natural. Essentially, it's got that natural feel to your filmmaking. So, to do a podcast where you're just having a natural conversation with somebody, and a dialogue just works. It's just almost the same sort of thing, but in another medium.
Yeah, I'll have conversations with my friends, and you kind of feel where like it's like you're taking like I don't know how I produce a spoon so fast, but it's like creme brulee. You feel like you're cracking the top of the creme brulee, you know what I mean? Where it's like, oh, this is like the real custard of when they're humor. And I want to make Man as being a doc. It's like a theatrical documentarian. You know what I mean? It's you're getting that piece of the human experience, and you're giving it the orange videotape, where it's the packaging of the orange tape, and it's it's nice and it's marketable, and everybody can digest it, like a nice pill that everybody have, but it's like the pill is like reality, or how somebody feels, or this is how somebody reacts in a situation, or how it really is, and that's the beauty of podcasting is it is documentary, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like people get some insight into like Elon Musk when he goes on Joe Rogan or whatever. I mean, granted, it's like, it's a little theatrical, it's like, here, try the weed, you know what I mean? Everybody makes their memes. But at the end of the day, he's either schlepping like some type of program or actually giving the insight that's not like, a sales pitch to investors. It's just like him just talking. And like, I'm not really selling Shakedown Cop right now. Just talking about it, but I hopefully it ends up being something that I'm proud of. It's like being a parent, man. Like, you're proud of all your children. There's just some of your children that you're a little bit more proud of than the other. But yeah, I don't know.
So where can people get hold of you if they want to contact you?
I'm on like every social media platform. I end up like adding mad people. But I'm on Instagram. LinkedIn is pretty heavy. YouTube. Just type in Matthew Zeitoun, MATTHEWZEITOUN. In any of them, I should pop up as me. I think I'm the only person in the world with that name, except for like a little kid in Montreal who apparently is into Little League, and I've already sent people to kill him. I'm still waiting for the results of that. But after he dies, I will have complete Google dominance. So I don't know, but that's but yeah. And I just type in my name, and then any Google or whatever shit should pop up. You see my work, whatever weird shit that I do. But yeah, it was a great talk, man. It was awesome.
Great. Yep. Hopefully, Professor Martin Quibell from Toronto will not send a hitman to come and kill me.
No, nobody. No, it's. Wait, do you have one? You have another doc? You have a Google doppelganger?
I have Googled and found a doc.
Montreal.
I think he's Toronto. I think I'm not sure exactly whereabouts.
What is with these Canadians, bro? What are these Canadian doppelgangers?
Stolen our names.
The U.S. and England were going to take over Canada, bro. The French have had their time, and I can't. There can only be one. There can only.
We're taking you back.
We're taking it back. Anyway, take care, bro. Cheers. Have a good one.
Anyway, you can get hold of me. I'm on the socials, on Instagram, Twitter, even TikTok as well. That's an interesting one for filmmakers. TikTok.
Oh, it's a weird one, man. I don't know. There's a lot of. I feel like if I'm not like a teenage girl dancing half nude, that I'm never gonna really break through that goddamn market. It's all good.
I use it to post clips that I get from different podcasts when I listen to podcasts, and some things jump out. I'll clip that and then post it on there, and so I'm using it sort of like a promotion for other podcasts.
Word, bro. All right, word. But yeah, it was a great talk, dude. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you everyone for listening, and I hope you listen again to another episode of Pods Like Us. Hello and welcome to Pods Like Us. I'm Martin Quibell, known to my friends as Marv, and at this time I'm speaking with Dylan and Kirsty from the podcast Happy Distraction. Hi guys, thanks for speaking to me. Hope you're okay.
Hello, yes, thanks very much for having us, Marv. Yeah, I'm okay. I don't know about you. Are you okay, Kirsty?
Yeah, not bad. Not bad.
yeah, I really appreciate you letting us on, and excited to get to know more about you and for you to get to know more about us as well. So,
well, I'm definitely looking forward to getting into the into finding out about yourselves and this relatively new show, because I mean I think it's only 4 episodes out so far, or has one gone out while I've been off for 2 days?
So the 4 episodes in a kind of a bonus episode. It was launched on the 1st of May, so yeah, pretty brand new ish. Though we put a kind of a trailer out, I think middle of April, so technically I suppose it's more than a month old.
Did you have shows ready before then, or you're actually doing them week to week?
So we kind of bundle recorded the first 4.
Yep.
So we always had those ready to go. But now we're starting to do it week by week to make sure we keep up with kind of current, stories or events or what have you. So
yeah,
I don't want to be too far ahead.
That's true.
It makes sense, really, because I mean, to describe your show in a basic way. So